Welcome to the Opportunity Zones podcast. I'm Jimmy Atkinson, and Happy New Year, everybody. We made it to 2023. I just wanted to quickly spend a few minutes recapping the state of the Opportunity Zones marketplace so far, what we saw transpire in 2022, and what we're looking for from Opportunity Zones as we head into 2023, now a few days into the new year. And all of us at OpportunityDB, and myself included, of course, are very excited to see where Opportunity Zones go in 2023 and beyond. But just to quickly recap the state of the Opportunity Zones marketplace and the state of the tax policy itself as well. It was enacted at the end of 2017 as part of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, Opportunity Zones were. And fast forward a few years, we now have a pretty mature marketplace. Unfortunately, this is a perishable tax incentive. Opportunity Zones are set to start expiring at the end of 2026. All gains that are eligible for investing into qualified opportunity funds need to be recognized prior to the end of 2026. So we really only have less than 4 years to go now. We're inside of 4 years left to recognize a gain in order to roll over into a qualified opportunity fund and to be subject to all of the advantages that Opportunity Zone investing has to offer. We already saw the expiration of a couple of additional benefits, including the 10% basis step up and the 15% basis step up. However, I would like to point out, once again, as I have done throughout the past several months, that there is Opportunity Zone reform legislation that is still in play. It will actually need to be reintroduced to Congress. But my guess is that will happen at some point here in 2023 in the new session. We unfortunately did not get that Opportunity Zone legislation passed in 2022, so my crystal ball prediction was incorrect. I want to talk more about that in a moment, but first, just to kind of summarize a little bit more where we are with Opportunity Zones, I think it's safe to say that the program has had far more success, at least in terms of equity raising, than anybody would have first suspected. When the program was first rolled out, the Treasury Department was estimating that it would be a $100 billion program. Well, I'm pretty pleased to say that by all estimates, it seems that we have already exceeded $100 billion of equity flowing into Opportunity Zones over just the first really 4 years or so of the program. Yes, the program was passed 5 years ago, but it took another 6 or 7 months before the zones were designated and another couple of years before the regulations were finalized. The marketplace really didn't get up and running until probably 2019 at the earliest. There were a few funds floating around in the second half of 2018, but that's why I like to say we're probably about 4 years, maybe a little more than 4 years into Opportunity Zones actually being a viable investment offering for most individual investors, high net worth investors, family offices, and RIA groups around the country who are looking to get diversified into more real estate assets while at the same time taking advantage of all the tax benefits that Opportunity Zones have to offer. And the primary one, which is the elimination of capital gains tax liability after a 10-year holding period. If any of this is new to you, by the way, if I have any new listeners or viewers, you can always learn more about Opportunity Zones at the OpportunityDB website at OpportunityDB.com. We offer a free beginner's guide to Opportunity Zone investing. You can find that at OpportunityDB.com/download. And of course, you can go check out the podcast, OpportunityDB.com/podcast, to learn more and to listen to all of my past episodes. So that kind of recaps the marketplace. It's got a very mature marketplace right now. Over $100 billion of equity has been raised to date. The vast majority of the funds that are in existence are real estate funds. And within real estate, the most popular sector has been residential, and specifically multifamily seems to be a very popular sector for real estate investors in general. And that holds true for Opportunity Zone investors as well. Now, getting back to that bit of news about the Opportunity Zone reform legislation, back in April of last year, April of 2022, some reform legislation was introduced. If you want to learn more about that, head to OpportunityDB.com and find our news article about the reform legislation from April. But suffice it to say that it would extend the Opportunity Zone's tax policy by an additional 2 years. So instead of that previously mentioned 2026 end date, it pushes that back to 2028. I was hopeful that this would get passed last year in the last session of Congress. And Congress did have a big omnibus bill that they put together in the last couple of weeks of the year. I scoured it as soon as it was released, and unfortunately, there were no tax extenders whatsoever included in that bill. There was some thought that the child tax care credit was going to garner some support and be pushed through in some effort, and there would be some tax extenders that would take care of that credit as well as some other expiring tax credits, and that opportunity zones could get packaged into that as well. Unfortunately, that did not come to pass. But the good news is really nothing was extended in terms of year-end tax extenders. So that could be a priority of this next session of Congress here in 2023 and 2024. Frankly, I don't know when any legislation about opportunity zones may get reintroduced, or what may transpire in terms of it getting pushed through as part of a tax extenders bill. But I do know that tax extenders are still a priority since we didn't get a tax extenders bill at the end of last year. And then moving forward, I wanted to talk a little bit more about 2023 and my hopes for opportunity zones. I think that the program continues to have legs, at least for the next 4 years until the end of 2026, nearly 4 years from today. And I think we'll see much more equity raised. We do have a couple of headwinds. One is that the markets are down significantly, or at least they're not up as much as they had been in the first few years of the program. They are down from last year. There's a little bit of investor uncertainty in the marketplace. There are fears of a recession. And frankly, we just have fewer capital gains to play with here at the beginning of 2023, as we may have had in 2018, 19, 20, 21, and the first few days of 2022, at least, before everything started going downhill. But there's some tailwinds at the back of opportunity zones. One, there is broad bipartisan support for the policy initiative. Two, there is reform legislation that I think will get reintroduced and hopefully passed at some point in 23, if not 24. And then three, just more education, more awareness of the program, which is one of the reasons why my platform at OpportunityDB.com exists. One reason why I do this podcast is to inform the investing public about opportunity zones. And to that end, we're also going to be hosting 3 OZ pitch days in 2023, as we have done each of the prior several years. We've hosted quite a few of these already, and we're pleased to announce we're going to do 3 more in 2023. I'm going to glance at my notes to get the dates for you guys. We have March 23rd will be our OZ Pitch Day Spring event. We're going to open registration for that event here toward the end of this month, the end of January. We'll start registering investors for that event. We're going to have a summer event. OZ Pitch Day Summer will be on July 20th, and then we'll wrap up the year in early November. We'll have our OZ Pitch Day Fall 2023 event on November 2nd, which is always our most popular event, is the fall one, because it's toward the end of the year. It's when people are usually doing their tax planning, rebalancing their investment portfolios, and thinking about ways in which they can diversify their investment portfolios and also start to get involved with opportunity zones in general. So that's a brief recap of where we have come and where we hope to go from 2022 into 2023. Again, Happy New Year to all of my listeners and viewers out there. And to learn more about OpportunityDB or to subscribe to this podcast, please look for us on YouTube. You can find us at youtube.com/OpportunityDB, or search Opportunity Zones podcast in your favorite podcast listening app. We're on iTunes and Spotify and everywhere else. Or you can find us on the web at OpportunityDB.com/podcast. And I'll be back soon with another episode.